easy now. Papa got this, make it hit
come down. Oh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you off like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was loving you good. The vibe was straight. So you a couple of things and they feeling strange. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn and you guys know where to follow me, man. I'm on the tweet machine, X, whatever that thing is called that Elon Musk is running these days. My @ name has not changed, @ Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. Shout out to everyone who is watching or listening on our YouTube channel. Seahawks Man-to-Man is the name of the channel. That's Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. We appreciate all the love and support. For those listening audio right now, just go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and come back. It's fine. Even if you don't watch, it's cool. The subscriptions help us. We love it. We love it. We appreciate you. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206. And again, that's CKid206. And boy, Mike, do we have some news to get to as my man sips some tea. Is it tea?
Nah, I had a long day. This is
coffee?
Nah, it's a beer. I had a fresh
cup,
day.
Man. Get a cup. Why are you drinking a beer out of a?
Well, no, look at it. It says number 1 dad on it. That's why.
I'm gonna mug you and say get a cup that says the same thing on a cup. How hard is that? That's
true. I should get a glass, but I like my dad cup. It's cool.
Whatever, man. You win. You win.
Like, proud dad moment. We had a frustrating day, man.
Busy day.
So can I say part of what was frustrating? Real quick. It'll take like 30
absolutely seconds. Yeah.
So they got the Amazon lockers, at apartment complexes, because that's how everybody orders stuff. These fools broke into the Amazon lockers at my complex. Like they tried to rip the side They actually not tried to. They ripped the side panels off so they could like get in, and you can like cut the wires that like, I don't know if they cut them, but you can just get in there and mess with stuff. And obviously get into the boxes. Now you'd have to then know which ones have stuff in there, but that's not even the point. So I ordered something today and I can't get in the box. I got to call Amazon, and then we're arguing on the phone for like 30 minutes. I go back, my phone dies while we're arguing. I go back in my apartment to charge my phone. I'm in there for like 10 minutes. Finally, a technician's like, hey, we can get it open. Go ahead and walk back there. I walk back. They get it open. My box is empty. So what I ordered is either it never came, or in that little 10 minutes I was in there charging my phone and arguing with the Amazon people. Someone came and just stole my joint. So that was very, very. I was looking forward to what I had ordered too. I ended up getting it. I got it reshipped to somewhere else though now. So I definitely ain't sending nothing here no more. So
the steering, what is it called that you put on steering wheels? The steering wheel covers.
Yeah.
My fiance ordered a Lakers one, right? Because she's a huge Lakers fan. She ordered it, got sent to the house. Says packet was delivered. I didn't see a thing. Come to find out, somebody stole it.
Oh, damn.
Someone stole, and it's a cover for a steering wheel. Like, why are you like? You probably just stole something just to steal it. You didn't know what it was till you open it. Like, oh, this is trash. So you know what I do? I send all my gifts, everything that I buy, gifts, you name it. I send it to my parents' house. I haven't sent anything to this crib. Actually, I did just buy the wedding outfit that's coming up for you. That's actually got sent here because I didn't think he was going to steal that. And luckily it didn't. So I lied. Every now and then I'll send something. But if it's Saya, shoes, clothing, like I try to send that to my parents' house. So, Mike, I hope you continue sending your packages elsewhere. Your lesson has been learned. Just send it elsewhere and go get it when you're free and available, because you don't have to stress about it. I'm not stressing no more. I just send it to my parents. And when I go out there and visit, I go grab my gear.
No, I hear you. So this is how much I live in the trenches. They already at my place broke into all the mailboxes. So for since November, we haven't been able to get any postal service for a while.
That happened to us too.
So I'm like, okay, that's not too big of a deal. I don't get no mail unless it's bills, and I don't really need to open those. But I'm like, the Amazon lockers should be solid. Nope. You got some dude trying to recreate the town, breaking into the mailboxes. I'm like, you guys is crazy. So that's why I don't even think I've had a beer on the show for the last couple of times. But today I was just like, yo, man, I need one, though. That was very frustrating. I was like, dog, y'all just robbed the Amazon lockers? I live in the trenches, man. It's just I gotta move. For real. Once I get married, I'm moving.
No, secure the bag, get married, and get up out of there. Get up out the trenches.
Yeah, no, I got to. My contract at the Athletic is up in June. I'm gonna start the negotiations soon. If they ask me, yeah, so what number are you looking for? I'm like, whatever number gets me out of where I'm living now. Whatever that takes. Yeah, what I don't care whatever that takes. Let's do that. Anyway, let's get to the free agent stuff. Free agency starts next week officially, but as you can see, this is cap casualty time. I know we used to so like free agency season. There's like cap casualty season now, where all the veterans. Basically, if you're like not all pro or Pro Bowl, or even if you are Pro Bowl, but particularly if you're not all pro at your job, and you're not just super young, this is the worst time of the year for you because you're in that like middle class that the CBA has basically squeezed out. The collective bargaining agreement is structured in a way that if you're not, again, the top of your position, like give me an all pro receiver, Tyreek Hill. Like Tyreek Hill is costing Dolphins a lot, but they're not going to cut Tyreek Hill, even though they're like millions of dollars in the red right now. They're not going to cut Tyreek Hill because he's all pro guy, right? Or if you're not super good, but you don't cost any money, like if you're in Seattle, like a D. Eskridge, right? D. Eskridge, it probably like we don't need this guy. We can shed that salary. Well, that salary is like 80, maybe 800,000 or $1 million. Not saving much. Now they might cut him anyway, but you guys get the point. The CBA is kind of structured where it's the elite guys who get paid and stay on those contracts, and then it's the rookies. And the guys in the middle are just basically fighting to get that first payday on the open market or extension, whatever it is. They're fighting to get that, and they try to get as much guaranteed money as possible because they don't. At least their agents should know this day comes. So even if you are a Jamal Adams, who I guess at one point was the elite at his spot because he was all pro, but like if you're a Jamal Adams, if you're a Quandre who got released, if you're a Will Dissly who got released, or even some of the other guys we're seeing, the Bills, by the time we're recording this right now, Chris, I don't know if you saw, the Bills basically cleaned house on their secondary. They're getting rid of guys. A couple other teams are shedding salaries on DBs. Feels like every veteran safety then got cut. Kevin Byard, Quandre, Jamal, there's a couple other safeties I was looking at. Very bad market for safeties right now. So the middle class is kind of screwed. And that's where we come to in Seattle. Like I mentioned, they cut Jamal, cut Quandre, cut Will Dissly, cut Brian Monet. I think, Chris, all those moves save about $30 million or something like that. And it gives the Seahawks, according to overthecap.com, about $33 million in effective cap space. I don't know how much we've talked about that on this show, but effective cap space is the number to really look at other than just generic total cap space, because total cap space is not really accounting for your draft picks and then your, just your top 51 salaries. So the draft pick thing is important because if you have high picks, those high picks are going to make your top 51 salaries. Because, like Spoon has a very high cap hit, even though he's a rookie. For a young player, that's a lot. Same thing with like a Charles Cross versus, give me a guy who they took late. Give me an example of a guy they took late. Did they take a 7th round pick? One of the late round picks from
Jarek Reed.
Jarek Reed, thank you. 6th round pick. He ain't costing him nothing, because he was 6th rounder. So the effective cap space number is important because you still need that. And your effective cap space number, I don't know if Over the Cap counts this in there, but for a team like Seattle, they really budget well for like practice squad elevations, right? If you got a guy making, 15 G's or something like that a year or a week on the practice squad, but then he gets called up twice. Okay, well, he's making like a vet minimum salary for the week. Now that may be like, I don't know, 65 G's for the game, but you do that. Every guy gets 2 elevations. You elevate, 20 guys over the course of a year. We're not going to, we don't do math on this show, but you guys can kind of do it at home. You can pause it and work it out. That's a lot of bread you need to budget for. So if maybe Seattle does go into free agency with $44 million in cap space or whatever the total number is. But keep in mind, they're not just going to burn through all of that on guys. They're saving money for draft picks, saving money for practice squad elevation. When guys go on IR, you got to pay them too, So all of that factors, and you're going to get a couple guys that go on IR every year. That's just how football works, right? So that's why you see all these dudes getting cut. But Chris, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think they cut Quandre, man.
No, we are both on the same
got
page.
me a little bit. It got me a little bit.
I don't blame you. What I watched on film, on the games, yeah, he had his moments. I can pull up tape that showed, okay, Quandre should have been this or should have done that. He could have been better here. Everyone talks about against the Steelers when Bobby was trying to stop Najee Harris from getting in the end zone and he makes that extra effort. Najee dives and Quandre's just standing there. It's like, okay, sure. But there's also 30 other great plays throughout the season where Quandre does what he needs to do. So there's far better plays. And I think that definitely outweighs all the negatives. And I know the quote unquote he's getting older. But as you texted me when we were rapping about it, you were like, hey, Chris, it's hard, playing center field in this defense. I don't know who else can come in and do that and be effective. That's another thing. It's easy to come in and be the rookie, but can you be effective? Can you be a game changer when the Seahawks need you to be? And cutting Quandre Diggs, I think, puts the Seahawks further back from their goal, whatever that is. Obviously, in the pressers with the hiring of Mike McDonald, got it right.
Getting his name right. There you go.
Come on now. They want to win games, and they're going to be. They basically remind me what the Lions were talking about with their new head coach when Campbell came in and we're going to bite kneecaps. We're going to be that type of team. And I feel that's what the Seahawks are at right now. They're a team that they got a lot of young players. They're going to get younger, obviously, with the draft. They're going to draft these hopefully talented players and try to build what they want for next year. Not this year, but the following year, 2025 season. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they believe that they are contenders this year, but I don't understand and see the vision of releasing Quandre Diggs when he was actually a bright spot on the defense. I know there wasn't many outside of number 5, overall in the draft. Who is that, Mike?
Spoon, yeah.
Spoon,
I was like,
right?
For a second, I'm like, number 5, who's that? But I'm with you. I'm with you.
But so with that being said, I thought Quandre would definitely be back. I thought for sure they might restructure. Like, hey, can we, kick it down the road, kick the money down a little bit later, and we'll figure it out, but we want to keep you. And then once they released him, I said, yeah, they're probably not going to bring him back. And based on just what I've seen on social media, it sounds like Quandre is ready for the next opportunity, wherever that may be. But I guarantee you he won't last on the market long. I would say next week he will find a job, obviously somewhere he wants to play, but he also mentioned that he wants to be with a contender, right? So there's 5 teams in the league that I would consider contenders. You got the Baltimore Ravens, contender. You got the Chiefs, which would be crazy if they were just like, "Hey, bro, come kick it with Mahomes."
He could.
I don't know what their cap space is looking like, but the opportunity is there. And then that would suck if the Niners scooped him up. I know how Funga he got banged up, but I don't know how their money's looking.
Out. They could need somebody. They
probably. I don't know if they got the money.
Well, here's the thing. They got to replace. They had a good rookie. I think his name was like Jair Brown or something like that. He was number 27. I think he was. He was decent. They got to replace bro who misplayed that deep ball in the Super Bowl though. I think his last name was like Gibson. I think he's an older cat though. I think like 34 or something.
He's been in the league for a minute. Yeah.
You got to replace him. So because the way he played that deep ball is like. Honestly, the way he played that in the Super Bowl, I know it's one play. I shouldn't just make it seem like he stinks. But the way he played that deep ball is the way you would think based on how people talk about how the fan base talks about Quandre. You would think he was doing that all day. You would think that. And then you go watch the tape, like you said, and you're like, wait, I don't know, man. This guy looks okay.
I thought he looked, to be honest, when I saw that he got cut, I was surprised. I understood Jamal Adams. I understood Will Dissly. As you pointed out, Mike, he did nothing until week 18. Will Dissly, that is, against the Arizona Cardinals. There just wasn't enough. There was no room. It was packed.
Only one
they drafted Yeah, when they drafted JSN, as you mentioned, the tight end room was about to take a huge plummet because you took him very high. You're going to use him. The tight end room is null now. It's JSN, DK, and Tyler. Tyler Lockett didn't get 100 yards this season, so even he took a step, and maybe that has to do with maybe his
Tyler
productivity
didn't
on
have
the
a 100-yard
field.
game this year? Really?
No, he did not. Not this season. Yeah.
Wow.
So not only did the offense not, they just weren't effective. We talked about their third downs and things of that nature. But all back to Quandre, I was stunned when they made that move, and it's unfortunate, but this is the route that they're going. They are looking to get, gosh, it sounds very cliche, but it's accurate, younger, faster, and that's what it looks like right now. You look at this roster, I don't know how close they are to the Niners. Hell, I don't know how close they are to the Rams, who swept them last season. So there's a lot to look forward to with free agency, and then obviously in about a month and some change, the NFL draft.
Wow, I think I knew that about Tyler, but then when you said it, it's kind of set in a little different way. Yeah, he had 92 yards against the Commanders, 89 yards against the Niners on Thanksgiving. Oh no, this is the rematch, not Thanksgiving. 81 yards against the Titans. Oh, here's the highest, 94 against the Bengals. Wow, man. Yeah. Wow. He only even hit 90 twice. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so my thing with the Quandre release. So honestly, I think any player, generally speaking, this is kind of my philosophy on the NFL. Any player is you can get rid of. You can trade or cut. Like I don't really think you're just like you're sworn to any player. You know, that's kind of the name of the game. However, the replaceability or expendability, I don't know if that's a word. I don't know if either of those are words, but let's assume they're words because I said so. The expendability of a player is measured to me by how easily you can replace the skill set. That's important to me. So like, all right, if you're like, we don't want to pay Frank Clark, so we're going to trade Frank Clark to the Chiefs and get a first round pick. Okay, what is Frank Clark's skill set? Well, he's about 6'5", about 260, freak athlete, really good get off the line of scrimmage and convert speed to power. Right, really good. Not like super hard traits to find. It's hard, but it's like, well, you go watch college, you go watch the SEC, you can probably find a guy who does that, right? It's not like the hardest thing in the world. So I'm like, okay, cool, you can do that. I'm not even mad at the thought there, particularly if that particular franchise has that front office has a history of doing that. Like for example, with Will Dissly has a good skill set. He's a really good blocker. He's got really good hands. He's really good after the catch, which is surprising because he's not like super fast, but he knows how to shed guys. I think it was against like the Colts or the Vikings or something. I remember him just tossing somebody, just launching a guy. Right, so he can do that. However, the front office the front office hasn't changed. The coaching staff has. The front office and all their philosophies and all the people who are in charge of evaluating talent, those are largely all John Snyder's guys. So if you tell me you get rid of a tight end, I'm like, well, okay. You have proven to be able to identify tight ends, whether it's a Nick Vannett, Luke Wilson, Colby Parkinson, Will Dissly, even a Jacob Hollister, who I believe they gave up a 7th round pick to go get from New England. Like, okay, I kind of trust you to find me another one of those. Even Jamal, who I think has a very unique and good skill set when healthy. If you need a box safety, I kind of trust finding those. It's a lot easier to find guys who can play close to the line of scrimmage at better bang for your buck. Like even what we've seen like a Bradley McDougald do. Like guys can play close to the line at a pretty effective rate. College is producing that type of player. Honestly, half the linebackers are basically converted safeties in college. It feels like they're all just 220-pound fast guys. That college is making those type of players, generally speaking. What we're not really seeing is a front office or a college game producing Seattle's front office, that is, producing the deep third guys, the guys who can. And I know there's a lot of too high being played in the league right now, but trust me, every team that plays too high still has a lot in their scheme where they rotate one of the safeties down, either to eliminate the middle of the field, or take away some of those crossers or coming down to intermediate stuff, or fitting the run. Because to fit the run out of a too high shell, you pretty much need someone else to fill one of those gaps because you're not gapped out. Okay, you usually get your safety to do that. You need a guy who can come down, right? So that's where Jamal was like really good at. So, but the guys who play center field on the back end, Chris, you watch highlights, ain't that many dudes who's doing that at a super high level. It's very hard to do And it's noticeable when you're bad at it, perhaps more noticeable than any other position outside of corner, because when you mess up, it's usually you're usually on Sports Center for the wrong reason, usually. And the thing that stands out about Seattle trying to replace Quandre is this franchise in particular and this regime knows they have intimate firsthand knowledge of how hard that is to produce. They had Earl. They drafted Earl in 2010. They tried to draft other safeties later with the anticipation of like eventually we have to replace this Earl guy. We saw Ugo Amadi try to be their free safety. We saw Marquise Blair try to be their free safety. We saw even Bradley do a little bit of it. And then we saw Delano at the time, try to do some of this stuff. It does not work. These guys have not, and these guys, I mean like John's people, have not identified that position that they've proven that, oh, okay, we can go get another one of those. They just haven't. So that's why when they cut Quandre, I was like, I don't know, man, that's tough. Because like I don't necessarily trust you to find another one. And because that's really what it is. There's some players you cut them, I'm like, all right, well, okay, good, we'll get another one of those guys, you know, running backs generally, run blocking guards. I'm like, you can find another one of those. But that deep stuff, that posts, seams, ball hawks, those guys are hard to find, even if they're 30 or whatever. Like, it's just a hard skill set to find, and college is not producing it. That's the other key thing for me. College is not producing a ton of those guys with the ball skills. You're seeing more like big nickel guys coming out of college who are in the slot. Even like a Jalen, my man's name in Houston? It's like Jalen Petrie, I want to say. He's kind of like that. Kyle Hamilton, he looked like he was a post safety sideline to sideline guy at Notre Dame, but he's really, what do they use him in Baltimore? Kind of like a big nickel. What's the other man from Detroit? Brian Branch. Kind of like a safety nickel combo at Alabama. And then he goes to Detroit and he's basically a nickel, right? Because it's hard to play there on the back end. It's just hard. You know, it's a hard thing to do. And we're not seeing college naturally really produce that. There's some guys who have range. I think the guy from Minnesota right now, that I think Newbin is his last name, he's in the draft. He's one of those guys, but generally it's hard. So that's why I was like, I would have thought that the front office saw that, independent of the cap hits and stuff. Because you don't really, they saved 11 mil, which is a lot cutting Quandre. But I would have thought that they would have looked at that, all these factors, like we haven't been good at drafting free safeties. The college doesn't really produce a ton of them. Free agency doesn't offer a ton of them currently. There's like a couple here and there. Like I would have thought all of that would have factored into the, like you said, Chris, maybe being like, hey, we'll extend you, give you a couple void years, you know, lower that cap hit a little bit. And just to keep we keep a veteran on the team. We keep a skill set that was hard to replicate. So that's why I was more surprised than anything. It's not just like, oh, okay, dang, man, this guy was elite. Y'all cutting him? It's more like, y'all gonna cut a dude. I mean, good luck. The grass ain't always greener. It wasn't with Earl. Mm-hmm. They thought they could replace Earl too, and they could not, which is why they had to trade for Quandre in the first place. So that's really why I was like, I would have thought if they sat down and did the calculus on it, that they would have like, we should keep this guy. Because it's just a hard skill set to replace. There's not a lot of dudes you can just throw them back there. And hey, when the other team throws a post or a seam, we know they're not going to catch it. There's just not a lot of those guys in the league. Even you look at the All-Pro safeties right now, it's not a ton of that outside of what's my man in Atlanta's name? He was in Cincinnati. Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates is like that, you know. Antoine Winfield a little bit, Tampa, but shoot, even he got tagged, I think. So yeah, that was my surprise stemmed from that. It's just I don't think there's just a lot of guys who have that skill set, particularly for a team that wants to win right away.
You know, one play you mentioned Quandre being a ball hawk, and I quote tweeted the tweet today when Quandre against the Rams had that crazy interception when the Seahawks playoff hopes were still in the balance. That's when Baker Mayfield came in for the Rams and was trying to be the hero. Yeah. And Quandre that's something that you just can't replace. Those instincts, his ability to come all the way across the field, made it seem like he wasn't even in the play, but he knew all along, I'm baiting Baker Mayfield to throw this. And when he threw it, Quandre just explodes to the sideline and makes an incredible interception. That is hard, as Mike alluded to replace, to replicate. Some guys just don't have that instinct. Quandre had that ink string. Now, obviously, it wasn't Earl Thomas, but he was the closest thing. That's why the Seahawks went and got him, as you mentioned. They went out and traded for him because they needed someone to do those Earl type things. Granted, he's not Earl. We understand that, but that's the closest thing. And releasing him now, you put yourself behind the 8 ball of trying to replace that, because I think Quandre still had 2-3 good years. He was healthy this season. I mean, I know he got banged up, but he was out there on Sundays and playing. So cool. Bring him back another year. He's not 37. He's still capable. And I thought the Seahawks might have made a mistake, but we will see how they respond with free agency in the draft. Maybe they do go out and they find the Marquise Blair that is amazing, because I'm not going to lie, Marquise looked like he fit the bill. And then he was not doing everything he needed to do. Couldn't tackle. For some reason, he just could not tackle in preseason and regular season. During the training camp, he was laying teammates out. I don't know how many times Michael texted me like, yo, Marquise Blair just murdered, I don't know, some running back. And then you see him in games and that it just never transitioned. So it's going to be tough. Now, as far as Jamal Adams, I get it. I don't really have much to say on that. He had a great start with the Seahawks in 2020. The first game against the Falcons, I remember just saying, I see the vision. I get what the Seahawks want to do. It looks great. He was blowing up guys in the backfield, tackles for loss. I think he had 11 tackles and like 2 PBUs in that game against the Falcons, against his debut. They also gave 400 passing yards, but nonetheless, Jamal was the star of that. And then the injuries started piling up, and then the coverage issues, and it just became a snowball effect. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it ballooned, and the Seahawks said, we just can't do it. We're paying this dude too much money. He can't stay healthy, and we gotta change some things up. So that wasn't a surprise to me. It's unfortunate because I think Mike and I agreed that there was still something left, but at the same time, they were allocating so much money to him. They just weren't getting it back. It just wasn't working at all. Pete's gone. Pete probably wanted him a lot. John Snyder agreed. Trade never worked out. And here we are in 2024. Jamal's gone. So that I understood.
So the thing, and I agree. The thing that really trips me out is like both Quandre and Jamal's contracts were restructured last offseason. You know,
that's
so
true,
so it's like those moves were made in the name of immediate cap relief, knowing that they're going to be more expensive this year. And it's not like, Seattle builds it into their deal. So it's like they don't really need to even consult the player. They just need to be like, hey, we're restructuring your deal. All right, good talk. Have a nice Sunday. You know, it's not like a negotiation. So Seattle made those moves, deferring some of those payments, or just like making their future year cap hits rise a lot. And it's just like, well, yeah, of course you get to this offseason, you're like, yeah, well, Jamal has the highest cap hit among all safeties. Well, yeah, he wasn't projected to before you restructured the deal. Like restructuring Jamal just to then cut him felt a little, that just in real time, that felt like a weird move. See, Quandre too is like, okay, you restructured him now. Okay, so are you going to keep him at that high number? Because I think they were 1-3 and in salary of or cap hits for safeties this year. I think Jamal was 1. I want to say Minkah Fitzpatrick was 2, and I think Quandre was 3. But they're at those cap hits because they were restructured. It just seems like I didn't get what the front office's vision there to like do the restructure, but then you get here and it's like, oh man, those guys are expensive. It's like, well, you made them expensive. You know, that's kind of been part of my thing with the front office. I've been kind of reflecting on some of John's moves and his salary cap guy, Matt Thomas, and then Pete's in this too, but now Pete's gone. It's like, man, the big swings for this front office have been just bad. Foreseeably bad in some cases, but just the results have not worked. Like I'm talking like the big swing for Percy Harvin. Bad. Did not work. Big swing for Jimmy Graham. Did not work. The big swing for Jamal Adams. Now that the book is kind of closed on that, it did not work. Like I tweeted out a lot of them. I didn't say all the compensation, but like the smaller moves, Chris, those have worked. Getting Quandre, great. Gave up like a 5th round pick. Great. Even if they had given up a first for Quandre, for him to then proceed to make 3 straight Pro Bowls, it's like, wow, that works,
It's a
right?
great
That's
deal.
what you expect out of, when you give up that. The Marshawn deal, I forget the particulars, but it was very little compensation to get Marshawn from Buffalo. Like there's some Carlos Dunlap. It was like 7th round pick they gave up to get him. So they've had the smaller deals have panned out, I think. But then, some of these big swings. I think Dwayne Brown probably is the best big swing. And I think they gave up a 2nd and a 3rd in the next draft for him, it's just a lot. But you get a left tackle for however many years that Dwayne played. He was a good left tackle. And that span, Pro Bowl guy, like that's a good one. But like Sheldon Richardson, nah. Yeah, it was not good. You gave up a 2nd and Jermaine Kearse, got him up out of there. And I know Jermaine Kearse wasn't like statistically impactful, but that had reverberations in the locker room that I don't think that they accounted for, particularly what it did to Doug. That's his man. I think Sherm too, but more so Doug. Like, the big moves are just not working. I say all that to say the front office has done a lot of, and when I say front office, I mean John, Matt, and all his guys. We're seeing what it feels like we're seeing is a lot of cleaning up their own messes. And I think we have maybe talked about that on this show, where it's like part of the reason, at least for me, I was really happy that they did the 2022 draft and they handled it really well. They drafted well. They got a bunch of good players, but it was also like, it's about time, because you had like 5 or 6 bad drafts in a row. Like you were kind of due. 2013 wasn't good. 2014 wasn't good. 2015 you get Frank and Tyler, which is good. 2016, 2017, bad. 2018, bad. 2019, you get DK. That 2020 was like okay. You get D-Lou and Jordan Brooks, Colby as well. And then 2021, bad. And so 2022 was like, oh, look at this great 2022 draft. It's like, it's about time. You've been bad at this for a little bit. You're due for some regression to the mean at some point, you would imagine. So that's kind of how I feel right now, where it's in a weird space of, do we give the benefit of the doubt to the front office or not to figure this out? Because as much as like Pete had final say, and I got into some arguments with some people on Twitter about this today. I tried not to argue much on Twitter during the offseason. I broke that today. I shouldn't have. But it's interesting how people perceive the order of operations here in Seattle when Pete was in charge. Like, Pete has final say, but that doesn't, for instance, can I give some storytelling real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, it's not even necessarily storytelling, but this really informed part of my thinking, right? So John and Pete are never really going to talk about how it works behind the scenes, who takes what draft pick, who negotiates what deal. But I remember when I'm always trying to find out information on like that. But I remember when I wrote the story on Matt Thomas, their salary cap guy. This must have been 2019 or 2020. I did a feature on him. And in doing so, I talked to all of these people who negotiated contracts with the Seahawks. Some of them I quoted in the story. Some people I didn't fit their quotes in there. But it was everybody. It was from big agents like Russ's guy to like a player agent like Bobby to small time age. I think I talked to like Joey Hunt's agent, for example. I think I talked to for that. Like, I tried to talk to all the different levels of agents to get a feel for kind of how things work in Seattle. And that was really informative for me because it gave a glimpse into what that looks like. And a lot of it, I mean, you would think that like maybe the head coach who's like VP of personnel or VP of football ops, whatever he was, and he's the head coach, you would think he's in there like, yeah, no, I want this guy, I want that guy. No, man, some of those dudes didn't even talk to John. They're like, yeah, I was in the room with Matt Thomas going at it, arguing over this guarantee, arguing over this many years, arguing over this, my client's stats. It's like so much of negotiations didn't even involve Pete. Not to say Pete didn't know or he don't got no say, but I tell that anecdote to show like John Schneider and Matt Thomas are not just little flunkies that when Pete says, go get me Will Dissly, no matter what it costs. And they're just like, yes, boss. And they go get him. No, it's a team effort. You know, they have a budget that Jody Allen gives them. Jody and Chuck and Bert, like all their bosses, give them a budget and say, hey, this is what you got to work with, which is why if you guys notice when you hear John talk about the salary cap situation in the offseason, he mentions cash. He says, like last year, I remember him saying we needed that move for cash and cap. Cash is important. Cash on hand. When you give people guarantees, the direct deposits need to show up, right? So you got to teams have a budget. General manager and the head coach get together and like, hey, we want him. We want him. Can we afford him? Maybe. We'll see. Chris, you remember last year, John told us, he was like, yeah, I didn't think we'd get Draymond Jones. They thought he would be too expensive. Well, how can you even be too expensive? Well, that's because you have a budget. You factor in what we can pay a defensive tackle. We factor in what we can pay a running back. Pete could easily be like, hey, do whatever you got to do to keep Chris Carson. That don't prevent John and Matt coming back like, yo, they talking about $15 million a year, Pete. We're going to have to just run with Rashad Penny, and that could be a scenario, or hey, Pete could be like, yo, guys, do whatever you can. I really want to keep Shaquille Griffin. I like him. It's my guy. Cool, Pete. Go to the negotiating table. Yo, they want $17 million a year over there. So maybe we should just make DJ Reed CB1. It's not just John ain't been a flunky for how long he been here? 14 years? This is his 15th year. Man, ain't no 14-year flunky, dog. Those guys it's collaborative. Not to say it's just John and just Pete or just Matt. They're a team. They're one, So I think we got to look at it that way. So if you're a Seahawks fan and you're like, wow, glad we got rid of that Jamal contract. Like, well, the guy who got rid of it is the guy who signed it. Keep all that. I don't know. That's a long spiel. I just wanted to get that out there, man, because I feel like we got to keep that framing as we go into free agency. If you think that the Seahawks had a bunch of bad contracts they had to get rid of, well, the people in charge right now are the people who signed those bad deals. Now, maybe John wouldn't have gone to the negotiating table if it was like, oh, it's up to me. We wouldn't even talk to him this league. I doubt it. Like I said, they're a team. John or Pete can like a guy more than the other one likes a guy, but ultimately they are a team. And so I am very curious to see how John kind of operates this teamwork with Mike McDonald, who doesn't have final say, quote unquote, but still, Mike's probably going to be like, hey, can you go get Patrick Queen? And I'm like, all right, cool. Let me see what Jody says about the budget for inside linebackers and what we can give and guarantees and everything. Cool. Okay. Yeah, bet. No, they want Roquan Smith money for Queen, Mike. Can you make it work with Drew Tranquil?
Sure.
That's no shade to Drew. I actually have him on my free agent targets list, but you know what I mean? It feels like it's a lot of that. It's a lot of like, coach wants this guy. GM's job is to make that happen within the framework of whatever budget they have, whether cash or cap, So I think we got to keep that in mind as we look at this. The Seahawks have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of cap space. That don't mean it's about to be a free for all. Like Chris, I feel like every year we do this. It's like, or the fan base.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yo, we got cap space. We about to get
busy.
Insert guy. Who's the guy this year? Who's the guy everybody wants that's going to cost a lot that they're not going to get? I feel like it's
you know what? We said we weren't going to do it off wax, but why don't you pull up the free agent tracker and we can go through and see who the big. So you want to look at certain positions, or you want to just get the best player available?
I just feel like every year there's a guy that is like, man, we should go get such and such, and it's just like, no, you're not getting that guy. You're not getting that.
Yeah, it's the wish list. Full thinking.
Yeah, I
know exactly what you. Yeah, it's just not gonna happen.
Honestly, I feel like this year it is Patrick Queen. I feel like it's him.
Okay, how about Chris Jones though?
Yeah, but see, I don't even know. Maybe Seahawks fans like, let's get Chris Jones, but I feel like as unrealistic as the fan base generally is, I feel like kind of know, hey man, we're not getting Chris Jones. But I feel like if I'm a team, man, I'm cashing out for Patrick Queen, dog. Like he's a baller. I think Jordan Brooks is a baller too, for what that's worth. I think he's just as good, but I don't know if he's perceived as just as good, and that matters. Patrick Queen just made the Pro Bowl. He was just on the best defense in the league. I think he was second team All Pro, and he's very young. I think he's 25 or 26. So I feel like all of that works in his favor. I feel like he's probably the guy that is on a lot of wish lists that when it comes to budgeting, they would probably only get him if he's like, I want to play for Mike McDonald. And if he tells his agents like, hey, get me the best deal in Seattle. I could see that would be probably the situation. I think. So I'm looking at a free agent list. You seeing anybody that's jumping out to
Well,
you?
Leonard Williams was one that you've mentioned, and I think the Seahawks should try to circle and bring him back. Let's see. But you would think the Seahawks would do that, but then you could also understand a world of where they're not trying to make that same mistake of taking someone that, maybe they shouldn't go all in. Leonard's about to be 32 next season, if I'm
I
not
think I
mistaken.
think he
How old
turned
is that?
30 this summer.
Oh, 30, so it'll be 31. Don't know how much of a factor that plays into it, but I thought he was instant playmaker for the Seahawks
He
in the
turns
run
30 in
game.
June, by the way.
Okay, so in the run game and in the pass rush, I thought he was effective. Now, obviously, the defense as a whole was not good. So him being a little bright spot, kind of to my Quandre Diggs point, is it all that? Because the defense stunk, Chris. You pointing out Leonard Williams coming in and having a few tackles for loss, having a sack here and there, having good pressure, putting up solid numbers. Can the Seahawks go find that elsewhere in the draft? Can they bring in a younger free agent? That might be the mode and what they're looking to do. I think, though, Jordan Brooks should have kept Quandre, Leonard Williams. That would have been a nice little room. You have some. Well, for one, you have a leader and a captain who is also not on the team anymore. That's another thing that people are forgetting. Quandre Diggs was a captain. Quandre Diggs wasn't just a free safety that was really good. He was actually one of the leaders of this team. So now you wonder, okay, how does Jordan feel about that? Obviously, all talks were that Jordan would love to be back in Seattle, but man, you just cut my guy. Like, that's my dude. Like, when I had questions, that's someone I can go and talk to. Even during the game, like, you have a trust with Quandre, like, yo, do this, do that. We're gonna do this and we'll make the play. Cool. Now you got some rookie or somebody else, and they're just not familiar with it. And that's growing pains. That comes with this new look, the shakeup in Seattle, as we have as our title. That's what's to come, right? And I want to ask you this, Mike, before we move on into other news that has broken over this past week. Future of Tyler Lockett. Now, I mentioned that wild stat that he didn't have one game of over 100 yards. Is he someone that will not be a Seahawk in the next few weeks? Or do you think they retain him and understand that his skill set fits right in with what they want to do?
Yeah, so I think that right now I would imagine him being on the team. But I could see that changing if they get to a point where they're like, they make all these moves, they get closer to the draft, they go to some pro days, they have some 30 visits with receivers, and they get to a point where they're like, we really want to get such and such, but to do that, we need X amount of dollars. I think last year there were a couple guys, I think they had to cut someone to get Bobby. I think it was Al Woods. Like, I think it was like, dang, we got to cut Big Al. But that's what it cost to get Bobby. I think it was somebody they cut or didn't resign last year was like a direct result of resigning Bobby. And that happens sometimes. So I say that to say I could imagine if there's a player they want or want to keep or whatever, and it's like, we're choosing this guy over Tyler. I don't know who that would be necessarily, but I also think part of that math though is the receiver class. Because I think you have to draft a receiver if you do that. Even if you love Jake Bobo, more Bobo, and you love JSN and you love DK, I just feel like that you would have to be like, all right, well, we have to get another outside, receiver or another slot receiver, however you want to do it. But you would have to factor in, that part of it. So right now, as they enter free agency, I don't anticipate a move, but I could see it maybe down the road in free agency if they're just like, okay, we really want player X. How can we get that? Can we restructure Tyler? Do we just outright release him? Do we trade him? I don't know. Because like I said, every player, this is a possibility for them. I don't think they should, but so here's how this is important. Because I view the Seahawks as a team trying to contend. If they were just trying to rebuild, they'd be like, oh, well, like you said, if they were like the Lions, when Dan Campbell took over, they stunk, and they kind of knew they would stink. Dan has said, I don't know if he said this privately or publicly, but I know our Colton Pouncey, the homie in Detroit, Colton has written, they basically thought, okay, we're going to get here, and in 2 years, we want to compete for the division. That was their thought. By year 3, they won a division, right? They were right on track. It was great. They knew though for 2 years that's probably not going to happen. I don't think Seattle was viewing itself that way. I think Seattle viewed
But even
itself
with
as
the moves they make, you're still feeling that they're trying to go above and beyond that. Because I'm not gonna lie, like I said with the Quandre thing, that's kind of going backwards based on what you're
No,
saying.
you're right. It is. But we felt that way in 2022 as well when they traded
That's true.
Russ and they got rid of Bobby. They made some other moves. You know, they went into training camp with Drew Lock and Geno Smith as like, yep, one of these guys is going to be our QB1. Now, looking right now, it's like, oh yeah, Geno's fine. But y'all know at the time that sounded crazy. It was so crazy. I think one of those bowl game sponsors like trolled the Seahawks. I think it was like the Mayo Bowl, maybe like made fun of them or no, some crazy entity in the summer made fun of the Seahawks QB competition. It had nothing to do with like the NFL. It was some random. It might have been like the MLB All-Star game, something weird. I can't remember. You guys will probably know. I don't have time to look it up. But the point is that sounded crazy. A lot of people didn't expect the Seahawks to contend, but the Seahawks expected to contend. They did, even though they made these moves that we perceived as y'all got rid of your quarterback and you expect to get better. You got rid of Bobby and you expect to have a better defense. Now, that one blew up in their face. But like they made these moves where it was like, what are y'all doing? And they were better than they were in 2021, at least in some aspects, not on defense, but they were. So I could see similar thinking. I think at that time, if you go back and listen to some of our shows, you know, I'm a movie guy. I kind of compared it to Coach Carter. Movie Coach Carter, you know, he comes and takes over the team. That stinks. And he makes them sign contracts. And two guys don't want to sign the contract, so they leave the initial team meeting. And coach is like, or no, one of the players like, yo, coach, those are our two leading scorers from last season. And Coach Carter, Samuel Jackson goes, well, I guess we'll have new leading scorers this year. Right. That's kind of how the Seahawks viewed the 2022 season. It was like, what are you going to do? That was your leading passer from the last 10 years. And then Pete and John were just like, well, I guess we'll have a new leading passer. It'll be Geno Smith or Drew Lock. So, yeah, I think you're right. You look at some of these moves and you're like, wow, you cut Quandre and you expect to get better? Huh. Like if they were to trade Tyler too, be like, why you trade Tyler and expect to get better? But I think because they did it a couple years ago, that's why I'm willing to say, hey, they do. You know, I could see that John and his people thinking that, and Mike McDonald having the vision. Whether we agree with it or not, that's another thing. But I view all of their moves in the context of, yeah, they're trying to go compete for the division every year. Because you remember in OTAs, I think I tweeted the clip too. It was kind of crazy to see in real time. Tyler Lockett broke down the huddle. This is like in May 2022. He broke down the huddle. He slapped his thighs in front of the group. He was like, Seahawks on me, or 1, 2, 3 Super Bowl or something like that. He's like, boom, 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 Super Bowl, and everybody like said it or repeated it. You know what I mean? Like, and that was before we knew Geno was like that. Before we knew that they had like 2 franchise tackles. You know what I mean? They've thought Super Bowl in like May of 2022. So yeah, I think that they're in that mindset again of like, so what? We lost Pete. We'll have a new head coach who will be better. You know, and part of that I think too, Chris, the team that Mike McDonald taking over ain't bad. The Seahawks were not a bad team. Some of these other coaches are taking, like Dan Quinn, that Commanders team is bad. Gerard Mayo, that Patriots team is bad. Who else? The Panthers. That Panthers team that Dave Canales is taking over, that's bad. Those teams probably don't feel like they're contending. Mike McDonald's taking over a team that was 9-8. They basically were a game out of the playoffs last year, you know? So I can see why in their mind it's like, we can just tweak this a little bit, get rid of the gray-haired man, and go back and go win the division. Whether that's true, probably not. But I can see how they get to that thought process.
I hear you. The last thing before we get out of here is some other news. It's not with the Seahawks, but this player was a part of the Seahawks for a long time, and he's a legend, right? And that's KJ Wright. And he broke news that he will be joining the 49ers coaching staff, which is a shock to a lot of folks. A lot of Seahawk fans are taking it. Congratulations, KJ. Other Seahawk fans, you are a traitor. I will say this. Congratulations to KJ Wright. I remember he was on our podcast 8 months ago last year. And I straight up asked him, I said, man, what about you in coaching, bro? I could see you doing ABC. I know you're doing he was in the pregame show for
Mhm.
preseason games for the Seahawks on, I think it was Fox, if I'm not mistaken, or CBS,
No,
one
I
of those
think
networks,
I think they're on Cairo or something.
or Cairo, excuse me. So gave him all the credit for that. But I was like, bro, you don't see yourself coaching? And he was like, nah, the hours, all the work. And then to see him just be so excited about it, I was happy for KJ. And sent him a text and was like, yo, congrats, man. And that's huge. The sucky part is, he's gonna be scheming stuff up. And he has two talented linebackers, Dre Greenlaw. I don't know if he'll be ready for the season next year. Unfortunately, he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, which is just wild. Insane how that happened. But that other linebacker, and Fred Warner, he got some dogs. Like, this is going to be fun to watch what KJ does and what happens in 3-4 years. Is he still going to be down there with the Niners? Is he going to get a defensive coordinator position? The sky's the limit for KJ, and it's just good to see former players sticking with it, right? Because obviously they can do a lot of different things. He did radio for a minute, and now he's getting back into the game. While he's not playing it, he is delivering messages to young men that could use a voice like KJ, a guy that was amazing at his position, was able to sniff out a screen a mile away. He just knew what teams wanted to do, and he was effective. He was a part of that Legion of Boom. So shout out to KJ doing his thing down there with the San Francisco 49ers. Congrats to him. Mike, I'm sure you got some stuff you want to add.
Yeah, I'm very happy for him. Yeah, very very happy for him. I do know. I'm also happy in general. It is kind of cool to see some of the guys who played for Pete just kind of start a new kind of coaching tree. Deshaun Shedd is the assistant DB's coach, I believe, for the Dolphins. Will
Oh yeah,
Tufuaku, I don't, I might have just botched Will's name. I'm sorry, but y'all know who I'm talking about. He was on Pete's staff recently. Ooh, I don't know where he is now, but I know he has a job. Right, so like seeing him coaching, I believe the Seahawks might have kept Nico Thorpe, but either way, like he's into coaching now, so that's kind of cool to see some of these guys that we watched, get into that space. There's some other guys I would like to see get into that space too. As entertained as I am by like Richard Sherman being on like podcasts and TV, he would be an amazing coach. I think. I think it would be just absolutely amazing quality entertainment. And I got to give the fans some grace here. It isn't just them that are upset about KJ becoming a 49. You see Bruce Irvin tweet.
Yeah, I
Bruce
texted
was
that
like,
man.
Bruce said he texted him.
Let me go back and I think you said he reached out to him and chatted it up. It's all love, but still, bro, you was you know how friends be.
He did.
Like,
Yeah,
Mike, you did
yeah.
this, but come on, bro. I'm gonna pull it up. Continue, Mike.
Yeah, no. I feel Bruce on that, because like it was really war with the 49ers. So I can see why some dudes are just like, man, you go over here. That was the ops. Marshawn Lynch views them as the ops. I get it. But in KJ's defense, and I gotta throw this out here, KJ did interview with the Seahawks. He interviewed with Mike McDonald for a job on the staff. He was not chosen for a job on the staff. And I know all of y'all listening or watching or whatever have probably interviewed for the job. You didn't get it. You know what you probably did after that? You went to go try to get a job with another company because you need to eat. No, again, KJ not hurting for cash, but you get the point. Like, if somebody don't hire you, you can't force them. You gotta go somewhere else, And we know, and then KJ's talked about this. KJ likes Seattle. He live here, his family here. What I'm saying? He was on House Hunters out here trying to buy a house with like heated floors or a heated toilet seat, one of the two, maybe both. Something heated that I was like, that's some rich dude stuff. I don't know if he ended up getting that. However, like he likes it here. So if he's gonna move, and I'm sure he's taking his family with him, if he's gonna move down to the Bay after living in Seattle for the last decade plus, then you must know he really, really didn't have any other option, but just like really exercise the options possible to try to stay. And was just like, I gotta go if I want to get into coaching. So, like, I feel like I put that in my story when I wrote about KJ leaving. I was running around a bunch. Maybe I didn't like tweet it enough, or like maybe we should have put it higher in the story. I don't know, but I feel like that's getting lost here with like the whole like, oh, that dude's a traitor thing, or like, dang, KJ the Niners. Tried to work for the Seahawks. They said no. What is he gonna do? He's just gonna stick around, sit on the couch. I mean, I guess he could keep podcasting, but it's like if you really want to coach, you got to go where somebody's gonna hire you. You can't get into coaching until somebody give you a contract, right? To do the thing. So, and Pete's not here, so now he's going to work for the Niners, and that's gonna be fun, man. That's gonna be really fun. I really want to see some of the other guys. I know Cliff does some pass rush stuff, but I want to see some of the other guys get into coaching. That'd be really cool. I want to see Cam get into it, Sherm get into it. He would be a fun coach because of the position, like Luke Wilson. Like if Luke Wilson got into, he's a
Techno too.
tight ends are a little, tight ends are a little quirky, so you can have Luke's like temperament and do it. Jermaine Kearse would make an interesting receivers coach. So yeah, I like Shed as a coach too. It's kind of cool. Marshawn as just a head coach would be great. That would be absolutely outstanding. But yeah, the KJ news is cool. Good for him. Just adds another layer to that. If the rivalry comes back, Also, Kyle Shanahan, evil genius. It's like, you know what,
man,
we gonna stay one leg up on these Seattle boys up there. We ain't gonna let them catch us. Even if I gotta hire some old Seahawks, we gonna,
which is crazy.
No, shout, yeah. Kyle Shanahan, he's special.
I did find out that the tweet was now since deleted. Bruce Irvin said, "Terrible. I hate the Niners. I would never work in that city in any kind of way. Permanent ops for life." But I swear he also mentioned that he rapped with KJ and it's all love. But those tweets have now been deleted. So I have no proof that Bruce did respond saying, "Oh, yeah, I chopped it up with him. It's still love." But maybe I'm getting other tweets mixed up. But Bruce did admit that that's terrible. He would never work for the ops in any capacity. And I feel that. You went to battle with that team for what 6-7 years that he did with the Seahawks or whatever the case may be, and twice a year. I get it. Completely understand. KJ on the other hand, he's a different type of dude. KJ's a very nice guy. All right. I remember the first time meeting the dude, I was kind of like, that's a big dude. Like, and he was like, "Oh, what's up, man? How you doing?" And he's just so soft spoken and nice. I'm just like, "Oh, you a big teddy bear." On the football field is different. He's not taking no prisoners, but off the field, KJ is one of the coolest and nicest dudes ever. "Hey, yo, kid, how you doing, brother? What's up, man? Yeah. He's just hella cool." So I understood why KJ would take the opportunity to become a coach in the NFL. If it was the Niners, if it was the Rams, he's going to take it. Especially considering, to your point, Mike, he wanted to work with the Seahawks. That didn't work out. So why not take the opportunity? So I get it. And at the end of the day, guess what? It's a game. They're playing football. It's okay. When it's all said and done, you can still be boys, have drinks after the game. Hell, look at LeBron and Draymond. Two of the tightest, closest friends ever. Battling out in the NBA Finals, cursing each other out, whatever the case may be, fouling each other, and then they having glasses of wine on LeBron's shop, kicking it. They're at each other's weddings, having a ball. It's all on the lines of competition. Once the competition's over, you can be friends. Mike might hate my guts in flag football. But when it's all said and done, it's all competition and we're having fun. No biggie.
Yeah, and also if you're a black coach trying to get into coaching in the NFL, man, you need to take whatever job is offered to you because it's not easy to get these jobs, especially if you're not. If your last name don't match the last name of the head coach or something like that, it could be hard to get some of these jobs as a black coach. So if somebody offer you one, you need to just take it. Like, I imagine that it'd be a lot of guys would be like that. I don't know Bruce super well. Actually, I don't know Bruce at all. But I imagine if his passion was coaching and the rival team wanted him and that was the only offer, he'd probably take it, to get into coaching. If that's your passion, or if you want to give it a shot. So who knows? Yeah. Shout out to KJ, friend of the show. But keep in mind all those people all you guys right now listening, like, hey, my man tried to get a job here. Couldn't get a job here. So what else is he supposed to do? Not get the job? Not coach. Assistant coach. I don't know if assistant position coaches pay well, but eventually the bag looks nice. The bag look all right. If you don't get that heated toilet, you eventually gotta, get one of them coaching jobs. I don't know if it was a heated toilet. I gotta find the House Hunters episode, but it was heated something. It was either floors or the toilet. And I just remember thinking neither of those things are necessary. But I'm not rich, you know. My mailboxes are getting broken into, so I got simple desires in life. I don't need my butt to be heated. Uh, you know, I just need to be able to get my Amazon packages. That's all. That's
Heard.
all. But yeah, shout out to KJ,
Well,
man.
look,
Friend of the show. Congrats. That Niners game is gonna be. It just adds another layer to that rivalry, man. I can't wait. That should be open. That should be week 1. Just for that.
kind of want the Dolphins to be week 1, but I feel you. On that note, we want to thank you
They do
guys
play the
for.
Dolphins. All right, I cut you off. I
Yeah.
forgot about.
No, you're good. I didn't, because
Oh.
that's one game I'm just like, oh, I want to see this speed. I want to see what Mike McDaniel has up his sleeve.
Where's that game at? Is that here? Oh,
That's a great
that must
question.
be here. That
It might
if that's
be
here. That's a
here.
bummer.
Oh, you
Dang.
want to be in the sun?
Oh,
Get the
yeah,
words out.
it's
Sun-
it's
It's
here.
here.
It's here because I went to
the
Miami in
last time
2020.
2 years ago. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Dang, yeah, it's here. Damn, that means that
Well,
I'm going to New England and I'm going back to New York for the Jets game.
but the
That
good
stinks.
news, if let's say this is a week 1 matchup, it might be 60, 70 degrees, Mike.
No, the game's here though. The Miami game's
That's
here.
fine, but it might be nice though. I'm saying it might not be Miami, but at least it might be nice weather, you know. And you're
No, I
not
want to
sold.
go to
Okay.
Miami. Yeah, I want to go to Miami.
I know. When I said
Oh,
that, you're like, that's not the point, Chris. I want to be in Miami.
yeah. I want to. I think there's some other good road trips this year. We can talk about the schedule later. But man, yeah, I know I'm going back to Detroit again. Like go there every
Cold as
year.
hell.
It's been okay because the game's been in September, I think, both times. So Detroit in September is not that bad, which is nice.
Okay.
It's not scheduled that in December, so that's a decent road trip. I need that New England game to be early though. I ain't trying to go to Foxborough in like November. Nah, bro, I'm good. I'm good on that. Same thing with New York. I don't want to go to New York in like November or December. Put that in October or September, like they did this last one. And I'll how we get to talk about the schedule. Anyway,
It's all good.
Sorry. Close us out. It's
You're
fine.
good. Hey, we want to thank you guys for tapping in for another episode of Seahawks Man to Man. We appreciate all the love and support. We'll come back next week. We'll try to find a day to do it because obviously free agency is going to be crazy. And as Mike predicts, every time we do a pod during these busy times, something always happens during our show. So plan on receiving the show probably later in the week next week. But nonetheless, we're back at it. We appreciate all the love and support. Mike, is there anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Thank you guys for all the love, support. Like Chris said, free agency is next week. We're gonna get it going, and then it's draft time, baby. So we're gonna line up our peoples for draft. I connected with a lot of the homies in Indy even as the combine. Everybody's down to do the show. We just gotta line it up. So yeah, can't wait for that. Appreciate the love that you guys show us each episode. Thank you. And we'll catch you guys next week.